Why do ugly, simple pages often outperform very well designed and pretty pages? Most pages don't fail because they don't have enough traffic because of the copy or the design. They fail because the user is not able to understand what you're actually offering. They leave because there's uncertainty or friction. So they want to change your focus to the page anatomy. There are certain key elements you need to make sure are on your page to help the user understand why your offering is right for them and why they should take the action that you're looking for. At the end of this video, you should be able to understand yourself within 60 seconds what pages are very good at converting their users and which pages are not. I'll also give you a free ebook about CRO where you can learn all the tips and tricks that we've gained over the years of running almost 300 CRO tests for our agency and implement them in your own business to grow and to go for success. What is page anatomy and why should you actually care? You've already been screaming at your user to get them to click on your ad. They finally did and they came to your site. On the site, they see a bunch of things. They see copy, visuals, videos, page speed, of course, is important. They see a certain design. All of these are important and visual to the user. But the page anatomy is not necessarily visual, it's cognitive. It's the way they understand what the heck you're actually selling. And when they go to the site, they follow a certain order in understanding. So the first thing they might think is like, what is this? Is this for me? Is this even safe? What happens if I click here? And what do I do next? So there's a sequence that they go through in their mind, not deliberately, that helps them understand if this is something for them. And page anatomy helps you basically guide the user through that sequence a lot more efficiently and effectively. Because of course, if you are persuading them to purchase, but they don't even know what the heck you're selling, they will definitely not make a purchase. So you need to be there to make sure that you offer the right value at the right step. And this all happens on one page. So page anatomy is a certain strategy. There are definitely key elements that you need to introduce to your page. And it might even be the closest to a certain fixed in stone formula that you can apply to your pages to improve your conversion rate. Design, we all know every page is different. So design is not necessarily that important because design, if it were a formula, everybody would have the same exact design. So design is not necessarily the key factor in getting conversions, but the page anatomy definitely has to be right. If it's wrong, the user will be confused, cause friction, and they will definitely leave your site. There's a reason why your users are either making a decision to purchase your product or to leave your site. And this is very much related to the psychology that goes behind the actual buyer decision. Users don't come to your site evaluating your product within a second. But they definitely first start evaluating whether they should evaluate your offer. In the first 2 seconds, if they feel there's friction or it's not for them, they will leave. People don't want to waste their time going through pages that they're not interested in. And there are a few key decision mechanisms here at play. The first one is the cognitive load. This is the amount of visual elements that they see on the page. If there's too much stuff going on, they get confused and there's too much friction. If they have to make too many choices, their brain overloads and they leave because they cannot make a choice. The other one is pattern recognition. It's very good if your page is styled throughout the whole page the same, because that allows them to skim through the pages and very easily get the information that they're looking for. An easy example is long paragraphs might contain a lot of value, but the user is not able to understand what it's about very quickly. They might read the first sentence, but then they're lost. So a much clearer way of doing that is adding bullet points, adding tags, adding little banners everywhere, because that it's a lot more easy to understand visually, and they can very easily rank what they should read first and second. Font type is another example. A bigger font often gets read first. It's just because it's so much easier for them to understand that the bigger the title, the more important it is that they have to read it. The third one is risk avoidance. Every customer, of course, wants to lower all the risk that they got. In your offering, you could counter this, but definitely in your page anatomy and the copy that you provide, you need to make sure that the user is not taking any risk. Remind them about certain guarantees and offerings that you're giving to them to basically lower all the risk. And then the last one is momentum. Just like the upside down pyramid for a funnel, you want people to start at the bottom in the exploration and go down the funnel. If you first persuade them, that doesn't make any sense because they're first understanding what you're actually selling. But the other way around is true as well. Once they're ready for the sale, you're not going to repeat your features again. You want to make sure that you follow a certain sequence that drives users into the tip of the funnel to make sure that you're handling that specific moment at the right time. Okay, so let's dive actually into a page that has all these key elements. This is a PDP, a product page on an e-commerce store. And of course, here we're focused on mobile, which should be mainly the key priority, as most users these days are on mobile. I'll guide you through these steps so you have a good understanding of why they're implemented and how you can do that as well. So we've tested many different elements across the PDP, and these are basically the winners we see almost on all our clients' PDPs. So where it starts on these pages is the primary bar. In this case, we have free shipping over $50 and we have a 30-day happiness guarantee. Here you can write whatever you're offering, but it's often a very good unique selling point that you can convince your users of while they're browsing your site. So definitely make use of this space. As we see, it's a continuous winner almost for all our clients. Then of course, you got the navigation. Keep it simple. On mobile, there's often a hamburger menu, and then just add the cart button. So you want to make sure that they can go to cart whenever they want to. And then you start directly with the product image. No breadcrumb or anything above it, just jump right into it. This is what they come for, right? Breadcrumbs might be good for SEO, but the user eventually doesn't care about that. And it's valuable real estate that you're giving up for SEO, whatever other benefits. You could play with adding different elements here at the top. So if the user does want to go back to the collection or the category page, that's a very easy way to go back. What you want to do as well is intrigue them with the different images that there are. You want to show them that they can actually browse multiple images. So here below the main image, we have different thumbnails. You basically want to add as many images as you got and fill up the bar. And even beyond that, but then you can just let users scroll even further. Generally, what works really well is have a product image, just like this one. Make sure you also show your product in a lifestyle image. Let's say someone actually using your product. Or instead of having like a very basic background, make it actually look where your product might be used. If it's in a gym or if it's in a forest, wherever your users might be using their product. And then the other thing you want to do on your images, not on all, but on some of them, you want to include text. For a user, it's a lot easier to scroll through your images and kind of get a good understanding of what you're selling. And often that's used a lot more often than reading your descriptions or whatever other information you gather in your page. And this is also above the fold. So this is really where 60% of the users will be, and the other 40% will not even scroll down. So definitely include some unique selling points on the image itself. That doesn't necessarily have to be on the first one, but definitely on any of the one that come after them. And ideally also include videos. Of course, a video says a lot more than just an image. So having videos here in this gallery definitely really helps. And because we have these thumbnails, you can even indicate when there's a video. So the user can jump right ahead if they want to, and you make sure that they know that there's a video, right? Because of course, if you have to scroll to the right by clicking an icon here, you don't know what's coming. So having these thumbnails that are just causing curiosity and even showing if it's a video really gets them to click on those. Then we go right below the fold. Something we've heavily tested is social proof, and adding a star review like this above the title always worked. So not necessarily here or further down the page, just around the product title has seemed very effective. And then you want to have the product title. In this case, master deep sleep every single night. Whatever your title is, could be simple or complex, 1 line or 2 line. You just of course want to describe what the product is and don't really cause any confusion from it. Right after that, you want to have a very short paragraph, 1 or 2 sentences, basically explaining what this product is for and what it could help the user with. Then you got the price. In this case, it's $39 and it's being translated into $1.3 per serving. What you want to do here is improve the perceived value, but also lower the expected cost from it, right? So we are, instead of saying 39, that might be a lot, we're actually saying it's just $1.3. So that way you kind of bring it down a little bit and make it seem a lot cheaper than it actually is. Something we've heavily tested too is adding unique selling points. So in this case, there are just 3 key elements that the user needs to be aware of that they might be looking for in a product like this. It could be whatever product you're selling, but make sure it's incredibly clear your unique selling points and why this product is interesting for them. This could either be in 1 row with 3 columns, or you just have like a bullet points, 3 bullet points. You can also have like pills, could be up to 3 rows, but just make sure that you don't overdo it, because of course the more you add, the less value each individual one adds to the user's perceived value. When it comes to price, there are always users that are willing to pay more. So in this case, there is a subscription offer, but not every business, of course, has a subscription. But even if you don't have a subscription, try to add bundles or try to upsell users into a better experience. There are always users willing to pay more. So besides the one-time unit, try to add a subscription, try to add bundles, cross-selling, upselling, any way you can incentivize users who are already loyal and already love your product to go for a more expensive plan. Of course, this is crucial in improving the average order value. When you're starting out, we always do recommend keep things simple because you first want to figure out if things actually work, right? So nobody's going to subscribe if they're not even willing to buy the single unit item. So if you're starting out, make sure you start simple and then learn along the way to test what works. A lot for our clients, we just continuously test everything from the add to cart button and above. This is prime real estate on your site, and the testing here basically never ends. Then you have the add to cart button, make it a big visible button. And then right below that, you want to make sure you share all the guarantees and promises that you make. The add to cart button is where they start thinking, should I add to cart? Is this something for me? So there you want to make sure you bring down their guard and you offer everything that you have to offer to make sure that they are okay adding to cart. So in this case, we had a 30-day guarantee and free shipping. Right below that, we add some urgency. So here we want to communicate to the user that if they order within the next 2 hours, their product will still arrive tomorrow, or will at least ship it still today. This is often a very simple thing to do, but really gives that little bit of urgency to the user to continue and to make sure that they purchase today, now, and not tomorrow. There are a lot of different ways to add urgency. Of course, you can have like a countdown timer, but it often seems a little bit cheaper. So if you want to remain classy, you can of course still be very truthful by sharing this little sentence, of course, where they know, okay, if I order today, I still get it as soon as possible. Okay, so then if we further go down, what we really like to add is a few accordions. This generally just has a few lines of text that basically answers the questions right away. But generally, it's not the clearest way to communicate something. You want to make something visual. But we still add the accordions. When they click on it, it opens, but by default, they just remain closed. Right below that, more social proof. Could be any amount of years of experience you got, the amount of products you've sold, the magazines you've been featured in, whatever social proof you got. And if you're new, you don't have any social proof yet, share the experience that you had yourself. You've been for 10 years in the industry, or you've worked for another company, you did this and this and this. Make sure you add whatever skills that you have that brought you to this place. Okay, now we're further down below the fold, and what you really want to focus on here first is emphasizing the actual problem. This is crucial because you set the stage. You let the users know, if they're not aware yet, what the specific problem is with the current solutions or the problem that they're experiencing. And also you're kind of agreeing with them because they might have a desire to have their problem solved. And if you can communicate properly and accurately that you understand them, it builds a lot of trust. And what you want to do here is you want to be very specific. What we often do is we interview customers, or we interview the customer support representative. We really want to know what's going on in their mind and communicate that very clearly here in that problem statement. So what we're saying here, why standard pills fail. A lot of people have already tried pills. So here we're basically communicating why they're not good enough, and that already sets the stage for us to communicate later why ours are actually solving all their problems. So here we're just agreeing with them, or we're actually just emphasizing the problem. And now we're getting into the solution. The 4 times better absorption, and we communicate a little bit more why our product is the best. Again, you can do it in very different fashions. The design doesn't necessarily matter in this example, but you want to make sure you emphasize your solution very, very clearly. This is kind of a feature. We want to just share how simple this actually is to use. It's a very simple 3-step process. And that kind of explains already to the user what they would have to do with the product. There are other products in the market, or you don't even have to use the product at all. But here with the comparison table, we're very clearly communicating why our product is different from the market or from competitors. This is very key because the users, of course, are always comparing your product to someone else's, and maybe even in terms of pricing. If your prices are more expensive, you need to make sure you elevate your perceived value compared to your competitors. Otherwise, of course, they won't purchase from you. So you really want to make sure here that you focus on why your product is better against the market. Don't be afraid to set yourself apart, or to make sure that you clearly describe the weaknesses of your competitors. This is really what's going on in their mind. So you need to make sure that you are tackling that right here and right now, and that you're answering the questions that they basically already have. Again, page anatomy, answer the questions when they need it most. Then we'll go into a few more features. Doesn't really matter how you communicate this, but of course you need to properly state how your product works and what's in it and what it does for the user. Throughout the page, we've tested this extensively too. Adding add to cart button throughout the page definitely works. Also here we're communicating that same value and the same urgency as we did above. We've also tried adding fixed add to cart buttons, but of course that also makes the screen of the user much smaller. And in our tests, that definitely didn't always result in a win. And adding add to carts button throughout did a lot more. We live in 2026. It's very important here to show visuals. Of course, it says a lot more than copy or images. So if you have videos, either made professionally or from your customers, definitely make sure to communicate those on your page. A few ideas here are someone unboxing your product, someone producing the product itself, someone using the product, or someone just leaving a review. These are either social proof elements, but also gives the user a good understanding what they actually expect. Of course, if they're curious, they might go online to look for your product. So why not take the matters in your own hand and add the videos to your site and already tell them what they need to see? So you have a lot more control over the experience of the user. But definitely include videos as much as you can. Often this really separates a new business with a very reputable one, because a new business doesn't have all that content. An existing business that thrives has a lot of user-generated content, they have professional imagery, and it's often a lot more interesting for users to see those, and it gains incredible social proof. You want to enforce, again, social proof through testimonials and stats. So definitely don't be afraid to mention big numbers about how many people have loved your product, how many 5-star reviews you got, how many reviews you got in total, how many customers you've served. Whatever scorecard number you can bring in here, definitely make sure to mention it. And then write testimonials too. People really pick out these words that they're looking for. Also here, they might have doubts, but these testimonials might actually counter those and actually share what someone has told about the product. At the end, users will always remain with questions. So do add an FAQ with the most common questions sent in through email or through your customer support feature. And then make sure you tackle those here as well. The amount of frequently asked questions doesn't matter. Make sure you add them all in here so really all questions are solved. As it's also almost at the end of the page, so you're not really missing out on anything if people have to scroll pretty far. And at the end, before the page ends, I would add another add to cart and share your guarantee again if you have any of those. And then the user is more likely to click on any of those. Before I share with you where you can download this free CRO ebook to improve the performance of your own site, I want to take you through a very quick 60-second evaluation that we often perform on our own pages or that of our clients. There are 4 things you need to look out for to evaluate that the page anatomy makes total sense. The first one is orientation. Within 5 seconds, are you able to understand where you're at and what this is actually all about? Very simple question, but it should be clear immediately. And then the second one is safety. Would this be a place where I would put in my credit card details? Is this a place where I don't get hacked? Very simple questions that are probably very obvious for you, but for someone who doesn't trust you, these are very real questions they're asking themselves. And then the other one is understanding. Do they understand your features, what you're offering, and why this benefits them? Why should I pay for this product? And then the last one is commitment. Once I've gone through all these things, do I know what to do? There is a button, but do I know what happens after that? If the page is clear, people will convert. If your page is not clear, people will not convert. That's how simple it is. And your conversion rate is often a reflection of how well you do this. Do you want to learn more about how we do this? Definitely click the link below. If you're looking for a free ebook, I'll leave the link here below as well. If you believe these breakdowns were helpful for you, definitely follow along. I might be sharing way more of these.